Hey, man.
Hey, how you been, dude?
Other than the pandemic and the insurrection, things are pretty.
Yeah. You know, the last time we spoke, it was really at the beginning of the end. We spoke at the end of February of 2020. That is the last time I interviewed you.
Wow.
So I think our last interview may or may not have caused the pandemic.
You know what? I hadn't thought about it like that. I'll take half credit. Actually, I'll take 40. You're going to take 60 because you
it's on my platform. It has to go 60-40 my way. I fully accept that.
Absolutely.
How are you? How are you? How are the kids? Like, how's stuff on you? I mean, you know, personally wise.
They're loud. They're 9 and 11, and they are loud young ladies who are vibrant and full of confidence and ideas. And I'm starting to get to that part where Dad's funny, but we don't listen to Dad anymore. It's just starting to get there. How about you?
Oh, dude, my kids are getting old too. They have, feelings and opinions, and they don't fully believe every bullshit idea I give them anymore. Like, even like 2 years ago, at the start of the pandemic, I could tell, my older son, I'd love to go to McDonald's today, but oh my God, they're closed on Wednesdays and today's Wednesday. And he would be like, oh man, but now I could be like, he's like, Dad, cut the crap, knock it off. Let's go to McDonald's.
Yeah. It's funny how they learn from you is what they learn. That's the thing.
True.
Like and so anytime I start getting really angry, I have started to recognize, especially my youngest, I'm like, why are you so shitty? And I realize it's because
at the start of the pandemic, I actually bought my daughter a cameo from Santa Claus as a way of warning her about her behavior. It was like May. It was so like we were kicking off the summer. She wasn't even thinking about that at the time. And I paid $50 for Santa Claus to make a video for my daughter to tell her that, like, I'm watching all year round, kiddo.
That's smart.
Probably the best $50 I ever spent.
That's really smart. I don't think we have that anymore. I think Santa's gone. Santa's gone for my 11-year-old for sure.
Oh,
my 9-year-old gone, but she just keeps pretending because it's lucrative. So
yeah. I mean, once you hit double digits, all the fear is gone.
Yeah, but they're good. I mean, considering, look, we're lucky and fortunate. I got there's no way around it. I'm completely lucky and fortunate. I picked a good wife. I got great kids. We get along with one another, and we've got a nice place to live. Also, we live in Southern California, so even during lockdown, as long as you were alone, like we would go up to the mountains. Or we would go to the ocean. The beaches were only closed a couple of times, really. And we would go to the ocean and play volleyball in masks, or we'd just go swimming all day. So mentally, we didn't have that close. I had friends in New York and Chicago and stuff like that where,
Sure.
They were in the, and that I can't even imagine.
See, I'm in Chicago, and I basically took this time to show them the cultural iconic things in Chicago that aren't like surface level. So I took them by like the Home Alone house. We went on a graffiti tour one time. There's this great mural of Robin Williams that I showed them. I live in like Deerfield, Illinois right now. And then the next town over is Michael Jordan's old house he hasn't lived in, but has been on the market for like 10 years. And the big 23 is still at the gates. Fucking awesome.
That's great. That's good.
Yeah.
Took advantage,
Ladies and gentlemen, I have Patrick Fabian on the line with me. Just iconic television actor. I can call you iconic now. You're reaching.
I don't know if it's true, but I'll take it.
Let's just agree to kind of agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tell you what, get off. If you would call my mom and let her know that would be beneficial.
You are like one of, we are reaching season 6 of Better Call Saul. First of all, I want to thank you for literally being on my podcast prior to the premiere of half of the run of the series. You didn't have to do that at all. And I appreciate it more than you know. You went up when I first interviewed you. You mentioned that you hadn't seen Breaking Bad. You kind of binged it when you got the part as Howard Hamlin.
Right.
And you managed to make it 6 seasons, about as long as, the original show. And I'm sure you were hearing, fan community and whatnot. It's like, oh, why are they making a spinoff? And the series really defied expectations, and it wound up living up to the quality of the original series and also forging its own identity. Were you expecting that or something different when you started the run?
I think we didn't know what to expect. I mean, this really is the hats off to Peter Gould and Vince Gilligan. They admitted that they also weren't sure what they were doing, but they trusted their instincts and they trusted their storytelling abilities. They've always talked about the idea that they weren't going to write something for something's sake. They were always going to write where the stories took them. And I know that gets said a lot, but they really adhered to that. They didn't have a 5-year plan or a 5-season plan. Matter of fact, I think they thought it was going to be wrapped up a little bit sooner. But then when elements, for instance, like Michael McKean getting cast as Chuck McGill, then all writers see that, they're like, oh, look at this gift. And they start writing for that. And literally, we take a season and a half using Chuck as basically the fulcrum of stuff. And that spins off into other places. But to your point, did I think it was going to go like that? No, because I've never been a part of something that's gone for 6 seasons. And I certainly didn't think, because I already knew that I'm not in Breaking Bad, I just thought, oh, well, they'll get rid of me at any point. They'll, I'm needed for the beginning, and then they'll just get rid of me. And then they didn't. And then they keep didn'ting. And then I started looking around, and then, season 5, there was that sense of like, I belong. I'm part of it. They need me. They need me for certain elements in this show. It's not great. I mean, I'm a girlfriend and stuff like that. But, there is a balance that has to be had, because as you pointed out, the show has its own authenticity that is not Breaking Bad. And part of that is that there's this duality of a criminal world and a sort of a lawyerly world. I mean, one of them, you can cut them in half and make their own shows in some respects, an hour of lawyers and an hour of criminals. But their brilliance, and I think it is brilliance, is that the alchemy that they get meshing the two worlds, and they almost have their own speeds. They have their own color palettes, all of that stuff, that they put on it. But, every year I was like, ooh, am I going to survive to the next season? Do they need me as a character? And when I say survive, I don't mean necessarily does the character Howard survive. I mean, is he needed for the story they're going to tell? Like, because maybe they're going to go somewhere else, because, but it's turned out I get to ride it, all the way to the very end. And I could not be happier and could not be more thankful.
So, I mean, as we're recording this, the premiere for season 6 hasn't aired. I'm fully aware that there's things you're probably aware of and can't say, but are you satisfied with the ending? Is it what you wanted?
Oh, Bob's been out. By the way, Bob has a book out called Comedy, Drama. If you haven't bought it, you should buy it, because if what Bob Odenkirk needs is more money. Clearly.
It's a great. Those Mr. Show residuals are only going to go so far.
They're going to get you lunch and maybe a Starbucks if you have enough bonus points.
Get 150 stars. That gets you a free cold brew.
Oh, that's my drink too. I know that 150 stars. That's what I want to get.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm completely satisfied with what happened and what's gone on. These writers have been really careful, smart, and deliberate all the way along. Inventive, fun, left turns, right turns, all the hallmarks of Breaking Bad are in Better Call Saul. We start off as a more emotional inward show, right? But as we start linking up to, elements of Breaking Bad, as we've shown in a couple of these seasons, things have started to get a little more frenetic, haven't they? They've gotten a little more kinetic and the stakes have definitely risen higher. The stuff that got deep planted in seasons 1, 2, and 3, I think for the fans, especially, the payoff is going along in that journey those years with us. It's like they've pushed these boulders and these snowballs to the top of this mountain. And season 5, boop, they kick them all and let them careen down the mountain. And I think there's satisfaction in so many different ways. I think anybody who loves the mothership and also loves Better Call Saul are going to be satisfied each and every week with what is revealed. And I guess, I don't know if I'll say endings, but there are satisfactory answers to a lot of questions that I think people the most. I mean, that's sort of, I mean, it's vague, obviously, but it is true, because there are some questions that you're like, well, what about this and what about that? And a lot of those major ones absolutely get answered.
Sure. You know, your character has become, at least, you know, from a public perception standpoint, way more sympathetic over the years. You know, you at, you know, beginning of season 1, you're kind of set up as this foil for Jimmy. We don't even realize till the end that you are kind of the fall guy for Chuck not wanting Jimmy to be at HHM. We get to know you a little more. You kind of approach trying to get Chuck out of the firm, like with empathy, and you know, we kind of dig deeper into your personal life. And then when I first interviewed you, you mentioned how you would get like stopped at the gas station and someone would be like, hey, why'd you got to put like Kim in the mail or in doc review? Have their questions toward you become more sympathetic as time has gone on based on what's happened in the show?
Yeah, you know, without a doubt. I think, you know, the revealing that Chuck was behind a lot of Jimmy's torment got me off the hook. But then again, I did treat Kim, people thought, poorly. And people love that Kim Wexler. That Ray Seahorn has created such a 3D character. And people are on her side. They're rooting for her.
Yeah.
They're rooting for her to be successful. They're rooting for her and Jimmy to somehow make it together and all those things. And consequently, I've gotten a little more appreciation from the audience, especially when I confessed, you know, saying in season 4 that I thought that I had killed Chuck, you know, that I was the reason for his suicide and stuff like that. And then in season 5, you know, Jimmy starts that whole thing with the bowling balls and the hookers. And at that point, I swung a little bit around going like, what's he doing? Why is he screwing with Howard?
Yeah.
Howard's just the business, and Howard's actually offered him a job. You know, he's trying his best. So
that plot line was the first time I ever saw Howard getting memed, where, you know, like you join certain Facebook groups, but there's like, you know, the Bernie Sanders template where he's like standing there in the overcoat and he's like, I'm once again asking you for a donation. I saw one where it's your head superimposed over Bernie Sanders with, I'm once again asking you about this job offer.
Oh, right. I still get, I'm getting texts again about that. I'm getting things again saying like, hey, Jimmy, have you reconsidered that job? So, which is awesome. You know, and when that came out, I really engaged on social media, with Instagram in particular. I started responding to anybody who thought they were being clever by saying like, hey man, still thinking about that job? And then I would see it stack up. So I just started responding. One night, I think I responded about 200 people saying, yeah, get the job. Meet me at HHM. You're hired. 8:00, you know, that sort of thing. And it really took off for a little while, which was really fun. It was fun to engage like that. Fans are great. The fans dig down on stuff. They see things and they remind you. Well, it reminds me, the show has a wide reach and a big fan base, and they're waiting. They're excited for what's coming up.
Absolutely. I want to talk about basically, if we had to compare this scene to a scene in Breaking Bad, it would be the I am the one who knocks scene, where it's just Jimmy's complete like. It's between the two of you. It's the last time you bring up the job to him. He turns down.
Hallway.
Yeah.
In the courthouse hallway. That was directed by, oh my gosh, Melissa Bernstein, one of our executive producers, and she was also an executive producer on Breaking Bad as well. Sure. I think it was her first time directing. It was her first or second.
Wow. That's a hell of a way to come out the gates.
Well, she's produced over 200 hour-long episodes of television, so she knows what she's talking about. But it's different when it's on your shoulders. And what I found was she was such a good director because, one, she had a great script to stand on, a great crew to stand on, and actors who were willing to listen. But as an actor, I found her suggestions to me were really great. In that scene in particular, she just sort of dropped some things in my ear to think about while Jimmy has his I am the one who knocks moment. And, working with Bob that day too, he had a lot. And there was there's a crane shot, and you see the shot that follows me. Right. It leads me, and he's exploding behind me.
You're like more in focus than he is.
What's that?
Oh, just like depth of field wise, you're even more in focus than he is. He's more like in the background, like screaming at you. It's kind of more from your perspective than his.
Oh yeah, it is, and which is funny because I've always been of the under the illusion of course, when I'm in a scene with Bob in particular, when Bob has like lots of fun monologues and gotchas and all that, we're watching him, but it was a reminder that different things are happening because we are Howard at that moment, because we away from this Jimmy, and so they pull down with me as he's exploding on me. Like, you're right, I'm in focus, and then she flips around to a silhouette picture of Jimmy as he's still screaming at me, and his arms and legs in his briefcase, and what he looks like is like a marionette. He looks like a coked up puppet who's just sort of around, and then she flips back around onto Jimmy's face, and he's out of gas. And then he sort of looks around, and it's this great moment where we get to be back in with him. And, that's Melissa's direction, which was awesome. And that also, by the way, has gotten memed a bunch. With him screaming and having fireworks on me. And it's funny, I've known Bob a long time, and we worked together for a long time. And it wasn't like, oh, it's just a scene, because the timing was tough because there was a crane that moved up at one point. It was one of those days where you're getting late in the day, and all of a sudden you got this important piece, but you got mechanical issues, you got dance issues. And once we got the dance floor figured out, then we only had about 5 or 6 runs at it, really. But he got it really like on the first or second take, I think is what they ended up using, because he really just put it all together. And it was one of those days where him and I usually chatty with one another in between. And just by the nature of the scene, we just kept to ourselves that day. He was overdoing his thing. I was doing my thing. And, in my mind, I was just sort of working on the idea of, like, to your point, this is it for me.
Right.
I give him one more time. I give him one more chance. I'm as honest and as clean and as forthright as I can be with him.
Oh, you had the patience of a saint with him that season.
Right. And then all of a sudden he gives me that. And that's the walkout of, like, I am done.
Oh, yeah. And you walked away when, nobody would have blamed you for firing back, and you just kind of didn't. Which is admirable.
You look back at your other point, I think that also fan base wise had people go like, you know what? He did try. Howard's not a bad guy. He's really put himself out there. So I think that, I don't think it necessarily put people on my side, but it certainly, I think, maybe got me off the hook. Definitely.
Speaking of your relationship with Bob, production of the final season, made a big splash in the headlines when Bob actually had a heart attack on set. Yeah. If what I read is correct, it was like you and Ray Seahorn who found him. There was a lot of what he went through. What was it like for you guys, after having, you got this is the final season, you guys have become, very close. It's been years. It's like you guys are basically second family. What was it like for you guys seeing that happen and then just like not knowing what was going to happen after?
It was as odd as you would expect it to be. It's a great reminder, seeing something like that occur to one of your friends.
Sure.
One of those great reminders of we're all living on borrowed time, baby. And don't sweat the small, all those cliches about don't sweat the small stuff and enjoy every sandwich. And just because you're on television doesn't mean you're not subjected to the world at large.
Yeah, well, by health.
And Bob's talked extensively about this, post all the things that have gone on for him. People have heart incidences, attacks every day. He was the luckiest guy in the world in that he did it in front of everybody.
Yeah.
He said, had he gone to his trailer, he'd be dead. There's no question.
It's crazy.
And he didn't. And Ray and I were there because the three of us hang out in between scenes. We're just there having a great time working on a scene. And then all of a sudden, Bob goes down and Ray and I are the only ones there. We run over to him and we start screaming. And he's talked about this as well at a bunch of places. And, we're yelling for help, and then help comes. And then help people, if you don't know CPR, you should go learn it. And there's no doubt about that. And we had people there who knew exactly what to do. And they were able to revive him. And, he's not doing well. But to your point, what do you feel like at that moment? I think like anybody who's watching something extraordinary happen beside them, your disbelief, right?
Yeah.
This can't be happening. I had a strange thought that goes through my brain when he was lying there and they were working on him. And I thought, well, you can't die. You have a pitch for Netflix next week, right? Which doesn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden when, an ambulance comes and it takes your friend away, then we're all standing there. Now he's gone. The people who can help him are gone. And everybody else who you came to work with today is just standing there. And you're shell-shocked. You don't know what to do. And the good news is that we're all family and we're all there to sort of comfort one another. And really the great news is that Rosa Estrada, who was one of the people who helped revive Bob, who's our set medic, she's worked in an ER for years. And so she was able to gather everybody up together and say, hey, I know you're all shocked. You should be all shocked. This is a traumatic event for everybody.
Absolutely.
But she was able to say, I have been in these situations before and I have seen people and I know what they look like if they are not going to make it. That is not Bob. Bob is going to make it and he's going to be okay. So go home and take care of yourselves. And just having that one person with a surety. And by the way, I don't think Rosa would say anything that she doesn't believe.
Sure.
Really helped us all go like, okay. And then you go get, then you still have to walk the dog, go have dinner, go figure out the rest of the day. It was so odd and so weird. And yet 6 weeks later, we're back at work.
What was it like his first day back on the set?
It was emotional. It was emotional and wonderful and great. And, but, typical Bob, he was also sort of underplaying it as well.
Sure.
And I think in the end, it's just a TV show. Certainly anybody's health is more important than that.
Oh, of course.
But because his health was so good and he was able to bounce back, and thank God everybody doesn't want to be an actor. Those doctors at Albuquerque, thank God people know what to do. And you go to those emergency rooms, you get into those things, you're like, oh, thank you. Thank you for going to medical school. Thank you for knowing all of this stuff. It's a miracle. It's amazing. And yet it's what they do every day. Boom, 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 boom. So he was working 6 weeks. We were having a great time and we were able to finish the season. And so now, by the time you get to the end of the season, we're back at, this day's too long. Oh, are they having chicken again? You know what I mean? It's human nature. All of a sudden you're bitching again. And every now and then you have to remind yourself, oh, hey, this could have gone another way. And it didn't. So it's fantastic. We got a season 6. Bob's doing a book tour. We're going to have premieres and we're so excited. I'm so blessed and so lucky. And I'm so glad. Honestly, I was glad I was there to see it so I could see all of it. I saw the worst of it. And then I got to see the best of it, coming back and finishing it all up.
Definitely. How has your friendships, especially with Bob and with Ray, been like since production wrapped, since you were no longer seeing each other every day?
Well, actually, I just saw Ray today. She came over and had lunch and hung out, played Sorry with me and one of my daughters.
Aww.
And sent a video to Bob because I think Bob's in New York, right? He got back from London. He's got some stuff there first.
No.
So we do stay in touch, and we're about ready to do some promotion stuff. We're doing the Paley Fest, and we have a premiere, and I think there's some other press stuff that we're doing as well. So there's those things that tether us, which is great. But Bob's a busy guy. He just sold a new show with Dave Ross, and it's funny, Ray and Mando and me, and you get back and you finish this gig and it's great. And but then, like any actor, you're hustling for the next thing. You're looking for what. And since Saul hasn't aired yet, people haven't seen it really in about 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So season back. So any of your work that you've done that you think, oh, well, this will help me, this will get me noticed and get another gig, which I think any actor always thinks.
Sure.
Well, none of that's been aired yet. It's only in our brains. So we're basically like looking around, looking for the next job, auditioning and seeing what's what. So it feels a bit like, oh, well, that was fun. Welcome to the back of the line. You know what I mean?
I actually brought up to my mother the other day that I was interviewing you. I was like, oh, he's one of the actors on Better Call Saul, which I know she hadn't seen. She hadn't seen Breaking Bad. And she was like, okay, I don't know who he is. I'm like, well, have you seen, Saved by the Bell, the college years? She goes, no. I'm like, okay, you've seen Friends, right? She goes, of course. I'm like, Nurse Dan. He was Nurse Dan. She's like, oh.
Right. Power of television, and one episode out of what, 200? And I get recognized for that. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even watch Friends like that, and I knew you left an impression. So. Yeah. Well, I was gonna do my parenting with Patrick Fabian segment at the end, but we kind of just organically got into that in the beginning. So just kind of fucked up the format of this trilogy of interviews. So I got to come up with something else.
We can do parenting though, because my kid's been taking piano, which, so now there's the time-honored tradition of our household where I get to say wonderful things like, have you practiced your piano today? And they go, but the good thing about that is that I don't mind doing that. I started saying shit to them like, oh yeah, no, as long as you're under this roof in this house, you'll practice an instrument. It can be piano, it can be guitar, but you're going to play a musical instrument in this house, which sounds like, the Von Trapp family by Fire, like you must play. But
like Joe Jackson with the whip.
Yeah, a bit. But the good news is like tonight, my youngest daughter, Delilah, she's 9. She sat down and grabbed my iPad and she started, there's all these websites of YouTube of like how to like play stuff. And it's got like the keys lit up or they have the numbers, the notes. She's been playing enough and she knows music enough that she was working out Message in a Bottle by Taylor Swift.
No shit.
She sat there for an hour by herself working it out. And, I was like, that's what I was hoping for, that she would be interested in doing that sort of thing. So that's really great and really fun. And then I come in and I'm like, let me play you a Beatles song. And they're like, get away, Dad. So,
Patrick, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time out to be here. Not only tonight, just like, I DM'd you on Instagram just on a whim, like, well, kind of high at 3 a.m. And you actually responded, and it's been a dream come true being able to talk to you over the years. If you're ever in Chicago doing press for whatever, I will fucking bum rush you so I can actually meet you in person. Is there anything you want to plug before we go?
Season 6 of Better Call Saul. Thanks for, being on the ride the whole way. Slide it on out with us and let me know all your thoughts on social media when it's all over.
They will. All right. Well, thank you so much. Much love to the wife and kids. And I will hit you when this goes online.
All right, brother. Take care.
Pew, 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 pew.